Welcome, Seiko, and thanks for joining me today for our short class together. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thank you for the invitation in the class.
Awesome. Well, what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which you may be familiar with either this book, or I know since you're in the Raja Yoga course, you've been familiarized with the yamas, the niyamas, and the 8-limb path of Patanjali. So what we're going to talk about today are some of the aphorisms related to attachments. And what we're going to do is talk about how our meditation practice can help, work through some of those attachments. And then we're going to practice a guided meditation together through Hong Sau. And in the expansion stage, we'll do a visualization as well as practice and affirmation together.
Sounds great.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. So in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, it starts out with Patanjali introducing us to vrittis. And he says that the vrittis are calmed by practice and by non-attachment. And vrittis are kind of like whirlpools of energy that are all within us, right? And these vrittis, they can come from desires and attachments. They're formed like maybe I decide I want some ice cream. Well, until that desire is fulfilled, there's that vritti there, right? And these come from this life and previous lives. And in the path to reach liberation, we need to neutralize all the vrittis that we have. So, and Patanjali says you can do that through practice and through non-attachment. Okay, so with practice, it's said in Samadhi Pada, the first part of the sutras, that the vrittis, attachments and desires, can be neutralized by calming and retaining outward the exhalation of the breath. And so you're familiar with Hong Sau, right? And in Hong Sau practice, the technique of concentration, we're, really centering ourselves, calming ourselves down. And you've been taught, and you may have experienced the breathlessness when our breath starts to get very shallow and slow. So that breathlessness is, part of that practice that Patanjali talks about, right? And so also at the end of Hong Sau practice, before expansion, you're familiar, we have a triple exhalation, right? And we then allow the breath to stay out as long as feels comfortable and get that sense of freedom. Well, in that breathlessness state, that's when the vrittis can be neutralized. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're already practicing, and Hong Sau can help deepen that practice.
So every moment that we had actually a stop, in between inhale and exhale, we are actually cleansing.
We are kind of, yes, and we're getting towards that breathless state where it really is going to be cleansing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. So then the next thing in Sadhana Pada, the second part, there's 4 parts of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Patanjali says that there are 5 obstacles on the path, and one of those is attachment, right? And so we know Patanjali said we can calm and neutralize the vrittis through non-attachment. Well, attachment is an obstacle. So attachment arises with pleasure, right? So what that means is that if we have pleasure for an ice cream cone, we could develop an attachment, right? Or for, to go to the fair or to eat pie or whatever, brings us pleasure in life can also cause attachment, okay? It's not typically pain or suffering. It's normally something we enjoy, like friends, loved ones, right? And I'm sure you have some attachments in life like we all do.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So working through our attachments, Swami Kriyananda recommended that we have different practices like visualizations, And so what we're going to do today is in our meditation is we're going to practice a visualization together where we can get a sense of cutting through some of our attachments and releasing them.
Mhm.
And then feeling kind of some of the freedom from those attachments.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, should I give you what the attachment subject is, or it could be used for any of?
Yeah, so you can keep it kind of general if you want to think of something specific during
Not
the vision.
necessarily.
Yeah, but
Oh, I can.
you can.
I don't need to share with
You
you.
don't need to share with me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it can be general, just attachments to life. But yeah, you don't need to share with me.
Okay.
Does
Sounds
that sound
great.
good?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, why don't we
I'm looking
practice
forward.
together?
Yeah.
So, I'll guide us through the Hong Sau practice and into the expansion stage. And we'll start with the two preliminary techniques of tensing and relaxing and then measured breathing together.
Okay.
So let's sit in a nice upright position with a straight spine. Our hands upturned, receptive at the junction between the thighs and the abdomen. Our shoulders slightly back so our chest is open, our chin parallel to the ground, and our eyes upturned with our gaze towards the spiritual eye. We'll begin by tensing and relaxing with a double breath in. Tense the whole body and release. Once more. Tense, vibrate, and release. Let it all out. And one more time. Now we'll do measured breathing. I'll guide us through a count of 5 in, hold 5, out 5. And so we can begin by breathing in, hold, out. Inhale, hold, out. In, breathing in peace and calmness. Hold, feeling peace throughout our body. Out, letting go of all that's not serving us anymore. In, hold, out. Go through 2 more rounds on your own. Feeling a sense of peace as you breathe in, as you hold it going through your whole body. And then exhaling and releasing all that's not serving you. And after an exhale, take a deep breath in through your nose. Breathe it all the way out, completely emptying. And then allow the breath to flow in on its own accord, with no control. Releasing all control of the breath, just allowing it to flow on its own. As the breath flows in, concentrating at the flow of the breath and the point of the nose, you feel it most clearly. And as the breath flows out on its own, concentrating on the flow of the breath at the point in the nose, you feel it most clearly. And adding the mantra Hong as the breath flows in, mentally chanting Saw as the breath flows out. Hong as the breath flows in, Saw as the breath flows out. Now as you concentrate on the flow of the breath, where you feel it most clearly, chanting Hong and Saw, we'll add the finger movement, gently curling your right index finger as you follow the breath in, and extend the right index finger as you follow the breath out. Chanting Hong as the breath flows in, curling the right index finger, Saw as the breath flows out, extending the right index finger. If the mind begins to wander, bring it back to the practice. Now the next time the breath flows in, we'll release with a triple exhalation, letting the breath out, feeling a sense of freedom from the breath as long as feels comfortable. And then allowing the breath to flow on its own without concentrating on it, releasing the practice of the mantra and curling the finger, simply concentrating at the point between the eyebrows, feeling a sense of expansiveness, feeling peace. Now I want you to visualize that your heart is like a balloon, filled with helium longing to lift upwards. But attached to the balloon of your heart are strings, ropes, even steel cables, tying the heart down, keeping the balloon of the heart from soaring upwards. Each of these strings is attached to some sort of desire or attachment. And you feel this tension, this holding back. And now let's take a pair of scissors and let's start snipping through the small strings of attachments, one by one, cutting them free. And as you make your way through the strings, you start to feel your balloon of the heart getting lighter. And now you take a knife and start sawing through the ropes, cutting them free. Freeing the heart from those attachments. Now all that remains are these few steel cables. You begin to saw through them with a hacksaw, cutting these strongest attachments. And as you work through the last final attachments, the steel begins to fray and the balloon of the heart lifts upwards, feeling free at last. And that freedom, that energy from the heart, soars up the spine to the spiritual eye. Feeling that freedom at the point between the eyebrows. Now, we'll practice an affirmation. You can follow along with me silently. With the sword of devotion, I sever the heartstrings that tie me to delusion. With my deepest love, I lay my heart at the feet of the Omnipresence. With the sword of devotion, I sever the heartstrings that tie me to delusion. With my deepest love, I lay my heart at the feet of the Omnipresence. With the sword of devotion, I sever the heartstrings that tie me to delusion. With my deepest love, I lay my heart at the feet of the Omnipresence. You can take a breath and feel the consciousness in your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes, and when you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you. It was powerful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for practicing with me, Seiko, and remember that through our practice and becoming non-attached, we can free ourselves. And this is a really powerful visualization you can continue to practice on your own.
Yeah, I think it was. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.